So obviously the name is simple, Rick Shaw,
Yeah,
common spelling,
yeah,
and you're a candidate for New York State Assembly
that is correct.
as a Democrat.
Yes, I am.
I don't know as I'll get into any other party lines, but out of curiosity, do you have any other party lines?
No, I do not.
You're just Democrat.
Yeah, and let me just state that I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm not one of these far lefts, and kind of centered right into the middle.
Okay.
So,
Good. Good to know. All right, so let's just start with a little bit of your biography. Tell me about where you grew up, what you do for a living, that sort of thing.
sure. So I grew up right here in town. The covered bridge you see behind me, I fished off from that, crawling down underneath and using my fishing pole and fishing for trout there. Lifelong resident of Delaware County. I did spend 4 years in the United States Air Force, so other than that, I've been living in this town all of my life. I currently live literally a mile away on the backside of the river. I've worked in construction with the Laborers Union 754 down in Suffern, New York. My dad was a construction worker and got me a job down there. And from there, I moved over to our school, the Downsville School, as a superintendent of buildings and grounds. And I worked there for about almost 5 years. And then I got a job in the Delaware, Shenango, Madison, Otsego, BOCES as their health and safety coordinator, helping schools, 16 schools in our component BOCES, stay in compliance with state and federal regulations. So I'm very familiar with the regulations and the legislation that is passed down by the state. And to be honest with you, some of them just don't make sense to me, especially dealing with some of the schools. The finance restrictions that they have, not being able to transfer monies from one point to another, some of the testing that we have to do in the schools, and the frequency of those testings, it just doesn't make sense. We do our best to keep the kids safe. This COVID has really took a toll on schools, both financially and emotionally with the students. And while schools are doing, a lot of our schools are doing a hybrid situation, I really feel that we need to get them back in as soon as we can, but do it safely. So I've been doing that, did that for 25 years, and I retired in 2017. From that, I was hired back as a part-time assistant coordinator because we couldn't find somebody to take the job, the assistant coordinator's position. So I've been working for the last 3 years as basically a consultant back to the schools. Helped rewrite the reopening plans for a lot of our districts. Currently serve on some incident command team committees for our schools, and just basically have been doing that for my career. I've been a public servant all of my life. I've also served with the Downsville Fire Department. I was an EMT there, and I'm currently a high school basketball and soccer official, so I serve our communities that way.
That's great. Now, just for clarification, which BOCES is this?
This is the Delaware, Shenango, Madison, Otsego BOCES, the DCMO BOCES.
Okay, that's the one I'm familiar with.
We have 2 campuses, one in Masonville, New York, and one in Norwich, New York. Yep.
Okay.
16
and is that
schools.
who you're still then a consultant to?
That is
DCMO?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
16 school districts we serve.
Many of them in our coverage area.
Yes. And that's the thing. I traveled the road within our district quite a bit over the last 25 years. And our infrastructure is horrendous with the roads and the bridges that we have to contend with. And that's one of my platforms, is to get the state money upstate so that we can fix our infrastructure. When I first looked at the governor's proposal back in March, I believe it was, when he put out the state budget, he touted that it was a historic amount for upstate New York to get $27 billion. And I thought, that is a lot of money. But then I looked, and it's out of $100 billion, which means that 73% of the infrastructure money is downstate. That's not an acceptable ratio for me to have just 27% coming upstate to fix the majority of the roads up here. I want to get that more balanced and get the monies out of downstate and get them upstate so we can get our roads and our bridges and maintain bridges like this for our future generations.
What are some of the other pertinent and pressing issues, I should say, of this campaign, would you say?
Well, the focuses have been shifted, as with anything. With this COVID pandemic, we have to get that under control. And New York State has done a pretty good job at that. The governor has had to make some hard decisions and stick with those hard decisions. And because of that, we're one of the lowest states percentage-wise in the United States. And now that we are one of the lowest states, we have to reopen our businesses, and we have to get that sales tax revenue generated back to the state so that we can fix our deficit. Our state budget is literally out of control right now. And while some of it is to blame for before the COVID, a lot of it has to do with the COVID. And we have to get our businesses back open. The governor has this executive order right now, the executive privilege on his orders that he has to relinquish now that we have this quote unquote under control in New York State, and give it back to the legislators whom the people voted for and to represent them.
What about your experience do you think prepares you for elected office?
Well, I've never run for elected office before. I'm just a common man with common sense. And I think that that's what's lacking in Albany right now, is some common sense. I have served on several state education committees discussing and revising regulations dealing with facilities and school safety. Back in 1994, I was recognized by the state legislators for my role in school safety. So I've had some experience in, if you want to use the term consulting on regulations. I've had to deal with the state regulations, and like I said, some of them that I read just don't make sense. So based on that, I feel that I do have the experience to go up to Albany and represent the common man.
What sort of personal skills do you possess that you think would make you good for this line of work?
I'm a people person. I love to sit in a mall and watch people go by. I feel that I can read people well. I know, and again, I'm using schools as a analogy, but I have school superintendents and business officials that I can relate with on a very professional basis. And I also know those school superintendents and business officials that I can ask how their hunting trip went out west, or if they caught any fish, fishing this past weekend. So I'm very good at reading people, and I'm very good at listening. I've had some experience, working with state agencies and dealing with schools and acting as a liaison between the agencies and the schools and working out good, viable solutions to make sure that they stay in compliance. So I'm a good, if you want to call it negotiator, for lack of better terms, I'm good at that as well.
So, obviously, you're running in a district that's traditionally been heavily Republican. It's one of those issues where, through the redistricting process, they've carved out various districts that seem to lean one way or the other,
Yeah.
based on incumbents and what have you. And yet, the assembly is so dominated by Democrats. Do you try at all to make the argument to the voters in this district that, hey, look, I can actually get things done because I'm a Democrat?
Well, it's very interesting that you bring that point up, because as you know, Cliff Crouch is retiring. He's been a Republican, has been a Republican all of his life, and I wish Cliff much success in his retirement. I've met with Cliff ahead of deciding whether or not to run for this to get a feel of what the job entailed, and I respect Cliff. Having been a Republican in a Democrat majority. No disrespect to them this way, but there hasn't been a lot of accomplishments here in the district because of that. I think that because of the fact that I am in the majority, and I do get along with people, and I do have the support of both Republican and Democrat supporters, that I can get some things done in this district. We've been without that representation for many, many years.
Why do you want to be in the assembly?
Well, people's asked me that, and I said because of the fact that I love upstate New York. Born and raised here. You take a look at these leaves, this area, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I want to maintain that. I want to preserve that for our future generations. And the state right now, the way that it's going, with all of the downstate, the metropolitan politicians dictating what we do up here isn't right. And I want to get in there so that I can discuss this with the metropolitan politicians and get my points of views across, and hopefully get some legislation that makes sense and that won't affect our way up here based on what they see down there. A great example of that is I'm an avid hunter, and there is proposed legislation right now to restrict, we have a sports store over here about a mile away, and if he wants to run a contest on the heaviest coyote, for example, okay, there's legislation out there right now that would prohibit him from doing that. And the way that the language is written, it states, it uses the term derby as well. So I'm thinking, are they going to expand that to fishing derbies, which our kids absolutely love doing? There is a business, a local business in the district that runs an annual fishing derby for the kids every single year. Is this legislation going to prohibit him from doing that because it's a quote-unquote contest? And when I looked at all of the sponsorship of this legislation, every single one of them was east of the Hudson and south of Westchester County. So I'm not even sure that any of them actually hunt or know what we do up here with respects to hunting. I'm not a sportsman hunter. I hunt for the meat and I eat what I kill. But, you know, for them downstate to dictate what we do up here isn't right.
So my ultimate question to all candidates is, why should people vote for you?
Well, as I stated, I am a moderate Democrat. I will be in the majority, which means that I can get things done for this district. And I have common sense. So, you know, you're not going to get somebody who is going to go along party lines. I am willing to work on both sides of the aisle. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If your idea is a good one, I will take it back to Albany and I will work with that. I'm not a party person. I vote for the person and not the party.
All right, now, is there any subject matter that I didn't ask you about that you would like to add?
No, just the fact that we have to get our budget under control, and taxing the people is not the way to do it. We have to cut the spending in the areas that we can cut, and we have to get our economy back open and our businesses back open so that we can get the revenue flowing back to Albany and into our budget.